This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. With many modern releases, especially with big games, we see a lot of completely absorbing experiences, from impressive graphics, movie-like stories, a wealth of places to visit, and so much more. At the same time, it can be really refreshing to just dig into a title that focuses most of its attention on its gameplay, and even provides a retro-like design. Big developers are normally not interested in this type of stuff, which usually means that we need to look to the indie market for something like this, and that can be tough to find at times because of the sea of crap that seems to be released almost daily. Then again, when we do find those gems, they are usually pretty fun. The same developer who made Deathwish Enforcers has released a new title that is smaller in scope and yet just as fun. Full disclosure, I am friends with the developer and he provided me with a copy of the game. Now, on to Guardgrave. Guardgrave is a simplistic, fun, and delightful arcade title. Like I said at the start, the focus is all on the gameplay. After a bit of story, you're right into the action. Not much build-up, thrown in there, and then trying to figure it out as you go along. To the game's credit, it does a good job of informing the player through them experimenting with the many different pickups and on what you need to do to complete each of the levels. Within each level, there are a certain number of graves. You need to put the tops back on the graves to seal the monsters within. At the start of each stage, you can find them at the top of the level. You need to push them down to seal the coffin. Your only means to do this is through the use of the hammer. The hammer will randomly appear throughout the level, and once you find and grab it, you can perform your smash attack. This will allow you to push the coffin lids down, along with allowing you to stun enemies if needed. When you grab a hammer, your time with it is limited, so you need to figure out your best route and path to not waste your time with the hammer. While navigating the levels, you are relying on the stairs to zip around and dodge enemies. There is no jump button, so making sure you have an exit in your path is important to dodging foes and their attacks. One hit and you lose a life. The hammer is not your only thing that will aid you too. You can pick up a Bible that will kill all enemies on the screen, along with finding boots that will increase your speed. Then you have modifying pickups like the Hourglass that provides you with more time with your hammer, and shooting stars which give you more time for the stage. This is all really easy to pick up and understand, but as you play the game more, you'll become better at efficiently completing each of the levels, trying to improve your score and completing them as fast as possible to earn more points. For example, you start to learn little things that can help you out a lot, like how smashing a lid with a stunned enemy will cause it to fall further, quickly getting that lid to its coffin. Again, it's all really simplistic gameplay to pick up, but I think it has enough nuances to continually keep it engaging. For one, the use of the stairs and trying to grab those pickups can greatly keep you pivoting a lot and reacting well during a stage. I also like the trade-off between being vulnerable to then having that player empowerment. For example, when you are without a hammer, you feel the most vulnerable because you cannot easily stun an enemy that is close to you. In those situations, the intensity ramps up as you try to navigate the maze of stairs to escape your foes and hopefully grab a hammer. Then once you have the hammer, the tables flip and you have a few moments of empowerment with being able to stun enemies and complete your objectives. It's an addicting mechanic that makes you always long for having that hammer. So the gameplay is really good and captures what we love about some of those older arcade titles that we played long ago. But Guardgrave also provides a healthy amount of its own personality, and knowing this developer, some really appreciated humor too. Stages that take the form and presentation from all different manner of classic horror movies and monster inspirations. We have a classic graveyard setting, a pirate ship, mummies, and a lot more. Stages have their own unique enemies and ins and outs to keep them interesting. For example, the mummy levels have traps to contend with, or the Viking levels are all icy and you'll slip on each of the surfaces. The farting Viking might be one of my favorite enemies, and some of the bosses just make me laugh. Speaking of them, each world has a few stages, and are bookended with a boss fight. In most cases, you're just trying to drop stuff on their head while also dodging their attacks. When it comes to flaws, I have a few. For starters, this is less of a flaw and more something to keep in mind. This game is an arcade title, so it does retain retain that difficulty and maybe even cheap nature that they used to have. This can also make it very satisfying when you beat a stage that's been giving you a hard time. But this victory can also come with some frustration as well. Some of the enemies can be hard to read if their attacks can actually hit you. Like the bat has an area of effect attack. It seems like if you're just outside of their radius, the attack will miss you, but this can be hard to read for the player and can result in you losing a few lives. I do wish that there was an option to save my current play session and go back to it at another time, and some of the boss fights are in need of some more balancing. For example, bosses 3 and 4 are a lot harder than bosses 5 and 6. I think many of these things will improve as the game receives more updates. Before we move to the conclusion, I must mention the soundtrack. The tunes here are really good and liven up each of the stages. The pirate theme is probably my favorite. Here are a few tracks from the game. This year we saw the studio release not one but 2 arcade titles. New indies swarm our feeds each and every day. It's hard to keep up with all of them, and then sift through the large amount of shovelware that is provided too. Which is why unless a game gets that big marketing push, or all of the game's media decides to come together to prop up 2 indie titles for the year, you sometimes need to go looking for those nuggets and gems that are worth spending your time with. After having the opportunity to spend time with both of these titles this year, they are both hidden gems and overlooked titles. Deathwish Enforcers is like playing a brand new Sunset Riders-like experience while highlighting action from the 70s. The game is even expected to get a big update to improve the overall experience, maybe even adding a new playable character too. Even so, in its current state, the game is a blast with great action, style, and plenty of juvenile humor. The game even had a sizable publisher behind it, but the game deserved a better marketing push to really get that title out there. I am sure many of you watching might even be seeing this for the first time. And then with their second release for the year, we have Guardgrave, a simple yet fun arcade title that brings gameplay back to its basics. Sometimes you just need to have some good gameplay to keep you engaged, and yet Guardgrave also provides you with good presentation from its visuals, personality, and soundtrack. These are 2 titles that should not be overlooked games, but they sadly are. My hope with them eventually coming to Steam and other platforms that these titles can get more well-earned attention. Chris may be a friend of mine, but regardless, these are the type of indie titles that I would try to look for even without that connection. While the main focus of the video is on Guardgrave, I highly suggest looking into both games. I'll leave a link in the description and pinned comment on where you can find Guardgrave currently. Have you played either Deathwish Enforcers or Guardgrave? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.